This is Third Space Live, a show that offers conversations, ideas, and stories to build a mentally healthy community. I'm Jody Peel, Executive Director of Third Space Charity in Kelowna, British Columbia. You can learn more about our charity at thirdspacecanada.org. Today's April 7th, 2020, and this is episode 4. Today we're going to be talking to 3 university students from the University of British Columbia, all about what it's like to be a student right now during the COVID-19 crisis. So please welcome Alex, Christine, and Katie. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves so they know who's who. I mean, Alex is kind of clear, but...
Yeah, I'm Alex.
You're Alex.
I'm Katie.
I'm Christine.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for
having us.
I should tell the users as well that the 3 of you are actually a volunteer team that is working towards helping our charity do what we do on campus. And you're working with us this spring and summer to get ready for September 2020 and thinking of really cool ways you can promote what we do on campus and help support other students. So thank you for that, as well as joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is an informal show. We're just going to chat. We've got some topics that we talked about the other day that we can touch on. So why don't we start with, holy cow, how are you doing? What's life like? What's school like online?
It's crazy. It's nuts. It's super weird. The transition to online courses was really sudden, not just for students but for professors as well, and so and naturally just with the nature of the crisis, and so not a lot of infrastructure was there, at least not at the University of British Columbia, to transition to online classes. And so it's pretty much individually what professors are doing. There's no overarching connective tissue that all courses are kind of a part of. Like it's individual professors making individual decisions based on their classes with minimal infrastructure, and so it's challenging for sure for students and professors, I'm sure.
It sounds like you guys are winging it the same way that we are.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to build a rocket ship while you're already flying, and
Yeah, it's different for every class, and you're just sort of trying to piece it together as you go and hope semester ends up okay.
so it's not the same format for each class even?
No.
So it goes professor by professor.
Yeah.
But it's all online somehow.
Yeah. So like some profs will have online quizzes through Canvas, and then others I'm just emailing them submissions. Some of them switched to like assignments instead of tests, and some of them just threw all of the rest of the weight into the final. So
There's some online instruction and some notes that are just posted. It's kind of just pulled together.
Are very many of them having live classes?
I have 2 classes that are using a built-in application in Canvas, which is the website or the application that our university uses for grades and homework and stuff. I have 2 live lectures that correspond with the lecture times of the regular school hours. 2 of my classes record their lectures, and one of them doesn't. One of them has no lecture component anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 1 live, 1 recorded, and then the others are just posted notes. There's no instruction.
So in our pre-show meeting, Alex, you brought up the fact that this type of learning, and it sounds like it's not one type, it's a lot of types, but it's not working for everybody, particularly for kids who learn, let's say, they need to be they're a visual learner, and there's no visual anymore, there's just notes. Or why don't you guys speak a little bit about that and what you've noticed?
Well, I learn really well by attending lectures and listening to the explanation that comes with all of the notes. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely been a little bit difficult for me, not having all of that extra information to go along with it and all the instruction. It's definitely different and definitely a little bit trickier. Yeah.
Yeah, for students, I think who learn either through auditory mediums like listening to professors talk, or uh, even going to professors or TA's office hours to ask extra questions. That's something that's a huge loss to a lot of students. Learning process is not actually being able to communicate effectively with instructors anymore. But I think that no matter how you learn, this crisis is going to probably impact your education, because the actual process of getting up and going to class and being with students and hearing your professors, even if you don't learn well in lecture, you're still prefacing what you have to learn later, however you would do that, and you're still getting information about assignments and about tests, labs, quizzes, all those things, and just being isolated is, I think, a huge detriment to individual learning, for sure.
Well, that's the
In what ways? Sorry.
You're not in an educational environment like you are when you're on campus, and it can have a huge effect depending on what kind of learner you are.
And like my program is largely social sciences and humanities. And so one of my courses, the entire last third of it was supposed to be in-class debates that we were doing.
Oh, wow.
And so like we just didn't get to do those, so it switched to a 2,000 word assignment that we would submit every week.
Oh,
So
that's too bad, because that's not anything close to the same thing.
yeah, so you lose a lot of just like getting to do that group work with your peers and getting that immediate feedback from professors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no contact with professors, at least no like face-to-face contact with professors, is killer. It's really impactful. Me and Katie are both in sciences, and I think one of the biggest changes we've both felt, I don't want to speak for Katie, but one of the biggest changes the sciences has felt is we don't have any labs anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so like one of my labs switched from just going in and doing the procedure to like two I think TA assistants or ATAs went and recorded themselves doing the lab and then sent it off to the students in the lab and had them write a report on the lab they did, just based on, as if they did it just based on this iPhone video they had. It was challenging. It really was.
Yeah, not ideal circumstances, obviously.
So how about test taking? How is that? I know you're gearing up for exams soon.
Yeah.
What is that going to look like?
Again, that's prof by prof.
Yeah.
I think there's I think two like main things that are going on. One is I think most professors realize that this situation is not ideal. I live in the city that my university is at, and so do my parents, and so I haven't had a huge issue with transitioning from on campus to online. But I have friends who are international students who had to move back to the United States or overseas to Korea or China.
Different time zones.
Different time zones, yeah. I know someone who has to like tune in at 4 a.m. to make a lecture. And so I think a lot of professors, knowing that this is not a freebie for a lot of students, this doesn't make school easier. It makes it considerably harder. So I think a lot of professors are designing exams around that. I have a couple professors who have said, I'm going to give you a regular final as I would any other course, but it's open book and uninvigilated. So you can do it in a group, or you can do it with your notes in front of you. You have things to fall back on because of this situation.
And those exams are always way harder, from my experience.
Normally,
Open book
you do an open book exam, it is. I think that profs are taking into consideration that it's already more difficult.
Yeah.
Hoping when they're doing that, they're not rewriting the exam to be harder.
Okay.
Yeah, the open book exams that I have, my professors have specified we are not going to make this harder than an in-class exam because of the situation.
Mhm.
Now, when we prepared for this meeting, you guys talked about one app that watches you when you write your exam. Tell everybody about that.
It's very anxiety inducing. It's got, you can see yourself on the screen while you're taking the exam because it's got the camera on you, and it tracks a lot of different things.
So the goal is to try to keep you from cheating by watching you when you write.
Yeah, and like tracking your eye movement and your head movement, and scan the room you're in with the webcam before you start. And obviously we understand the concept, but it's just, you just have it in your head that you're being watched the entire time, so it's quite distracting.
It's definitely anxiety inducing, especially because you're wherever, you're in your bedroom, you're in your living room, in like a space that you generally feel like pretty safe and secure in. But you're now being like watched by some software that you don't really understand, and I don't know, it's nerve-wracking for sure.
So it's changing how you relate to your environment at home and what's usually your sanctuary or safe place. It's changing that for you.
Yeah.
A little unsettled.
It's a draconian app. It really is. Like the fact that they like track your eye movement, and if they think you're looking down and to the left too much, they'll make you like pick up your webcam and scan your room, is really, really invasive.
So when you're thinking about what you want to say in your exam, and most of us, our eyes wander when we're thinking.
Yeah, it's literally like a physiological like response to just a thought. Like you can track different eye movements with different like patterns of thought. It's like it's science. And like I like, say you're writing an organic chemistry or calculus or anything where you need to write down like problems before you input the solution. Like you'll be looking down at like what you're writing at. And if Proctorial, the app, doesn't like that, it'll make you scan your room and take time out of writing your exam because it doesn't like the way you look. Like it's really, really severe. And I think it's a really, really bad app, personally.
You're deep in thought, trying to figure out something complex in your mind. And then you're constantly being distracted by, what are my eyes doing? Right?
Yeah, you're sure that you're not doing anything that will make it think you're cheating. Yeah. Then you're so focused on not cheating that you can't even think through the problem.
You're so hyper aware of it.
Oh, you just froze, my dear.
Pedagogically.
There we go.
Pedagogically, it's terrible. Like you're not like, I think that any professor who uses Proctorial has the responsibility of making their test not that hard, because if you have a test that you need to really, really focus on, and Proctorial is knocking on your computer screen saying, hey, you need to show me what you're doing, and taking your brain out of that context, then yeah, it's terrible. It's awful.
And how many of your classes are going to be making use of that?
Thankfully, none of mine are.
For sure. 2 of my other professors have not communicated plans for the final yet, so I don't know if they will. I know.
When is it?
If I will or not, but for sure one.
I have 2 that are using it. I had one that was going to use it, and then after doing like a practice run, she said, no, that's horrible. And so now it's a take-home final, which is nice.
So we've talked a little bit about how the education piece is being impacted and maybe the test taking. What about what it's like being home all the time and not seeing your friends, your classmates, your boyfriend, your girlfriend? What's that like?
It was an adjustment. Doing better than I thought I would be, but I don't think anybody is really loving it.
Yeah, a lot of Netflix.
A lot of Netflix.
Thank goodness for Tiger King.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I'll have to get on it.
I thankfully get along very well with my family, and so I'm not having an awful time with it. I empathize with people who come from for people who come from, say, broken homes, who have to go back to the places that they left and to go to school from, and like that would certainly be difficult. I'm very privileged to have a family as supportive as mine. not seeing friends is troubling. Although there are ways around it, like online conference calls or like social distance, like bike rides. Katie and I and a few friends went on one the other day.
Somebody went by us and told us we should be on a poster for social distancing.
It was nice.
We were like 2 hockey sticks apart.
Yeah.
That's the new Canadian way.
Mhm.
I think you only need to be 1.
Sticks are kind of long. Yeah, I feel like 2 is quite a distance.
So,
To
how
that,
about you, Christine?
it's good for me at home. My parents both have worked from home my whole life, so it feels pretty regular. There was a lot of stuff that I was involved with during the school year. I like to be a really busy person, and so I'm involved in a lot of things, as Katie and Alex know.
I got that from you.
And so a lot of that is on pause right now, which is frustrating because you spend a year building up relationships and working on these things that you don't get to go forward with. And to speak to Alex's point from earlier about those individuals who come from less stable households, I was volunteering with the Elizabeth Fry Society, who does work with those individuals. And one thing that they're really focused on now is how they can offer support to those individuals who are now forced back into those unstable situations. So that is a really good resource that's available to those people.
And there's so many different ways home can be not a great place to be, whether it's you don't have a great relationship or it's not safe, or there's people in that household that you have conflict with. There could be financial pressures on kids having to go back and live at home when they've been on their own for a bit, and now the parent has to take care of them. It's a complicated thing.
It is.
Sure.
I know the 3 of us are quite fortunate when it comes to our home lives, so I think we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's not like that for everyone. It's a difficult time.
You were sharing with me in our pre-show about a friend or two who are still in the residences because they're from far away, and I think it was Christine. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So I have a friend of mine from Zimbabwe who's still living on campus right now, just because she doesn't know how safe it is for her to go home right now, and like what the conditions are like in Zimbabwe. But she also doesn't know like what her contract to stay here looks like. So she's just trying to get through school as best she can for right now and then figure it out. But that's definitely really, really unstable for her. And then Alex and I have a couple of friends who are RAs out in UBC Vancouver, who cannot come home without forfeiting their contract for next year to be RAs. So they're stuck out in Vancouver right now and can't come back to Kelowna.
And is it a ghost town where they are right now?
Big time.
Yeah, from what they've told me, there's like 4 or 5 kids on their floor, and it's just like it's quiet and it's empty all the time, and it must blow. It must not be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see why the university would have that stance, though, because those few kids that are still there, they need that support.
Yeah, and from what we've heard from them, the few kids that are on their floor are reaching out for support, and they are having to be that support system for those kids that are still out there. So,
yeah.
Are any of them struggling in a big way, and what's going on with that?
I don't think they have. I don't think if their students were struggling in a serious way, they would be able to tell us in a meaningful way because we're still
Right, gotcha.
But yeah, I don't want to make assumptions. I'm not sure why people haven't left the dorm yet. But yeah, it's a weird situation to be in for them, and I empathize quite a bit.
So when you're connecting with your friends safely, online or otherwise, how do you feel the general emotional state is of everybody? Are people feeling like they're managing and coping, or some people, are the wheels coming off the bus for some people? What's that looking like?
It's really varying, I find. my older brother and his girlfriend are both graduating this year, and they're both finishing honors projects. And my brother's girlfriend had to stop her research because she couldn't go to the lab anymore. The lab closed down.
Right.
She is no longer doing a thesis defense. You do an honors defense in chemistry at UBCO. She's not doing a defense. She's just presenting her project. And the same goes for my brother. And as people who are graduating, they're concerned about what benefits they can get in the coming in the summer if they're no longer classified as students.
Right.
But yeah, and I think
And they're not being hired.
Yeah, not being hired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in people who are graduating, there's an obvious amount of understandable panic.
Mm-hmm.
I find with a lot of other people that I've talked to, there's not much you can do about the situation we're in, and I find that instead of panicking, a lot of people are just kind of shrugging their shoulders and saying it is what it is. Like, you just got to do it.
Accept it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like what my friends are struggling with the most is just having no idea how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Exactly. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The uncertainty is a little unsettling. But like Alex said, I think that, if they can, everybody's just trying to make the best of it and accept it for what it is.
I think that we all live in a fairly low density city, and it's not. I don't know how many confirmed COVID cases we've had here. If it's not many, I don't think. But if I was living in a higher density area like Vancouver or Montreal or Toronto, or if I was living in the United States, who is going to be approaching their peak week this week or the next, I would be concerned about the actual, the core of this crisis, which is the coronavirus. I would be nervous about that, but thankfully
you got tested, right? Because
I did get tested. Yeah, I was very sick for a very long time. Right before school shut down, I was wicked ill, and so I went in and they gave me the whole test. They touched my brain with a cotton swab. And it was negative, thankfully.
We were so stressed. He looked so terrible.
Oh, I was in bad shape.
I know your mom was stressed because I know your mom, and
yeah,
very relieved that it was a negative result. So you're the only person I know, Alex, who has been tested so far.
Yeah, they gave it to me pretty quickly, which is surprising. I tell people that I got tested, and they're like, "What? How'd you get one?" And I was like,
I was really sick.
Yeah, I was wicked sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you supporting each other, whether it's in town or some of these friends overseas? What kind of strategies are you using? Are you checking in more, or what does that look like?
Definitely checking in more.
Yeah.
I feel like trying to open up communication a lot more and making sure that you're talking to everybody and everybody's doing all right. But yeah, I mean, you don't have a ton of options in this kind of situation. Just a matter of doing what you can.
Yeah.
Like the most you can do is just try to reach out and have those group calls, and still try to find ways to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and all of those sorts of things, and just don't isolate yourself, and just be there for people when we get to see each other in person too.
Yeah. And investing in software that lets you connect with people as well. There's a great app called Discord. That's really popular and fairly common. Just for like video or group chats. It's a lot like Zoom, but it's completely free for video calls, no time limit. And it works really well. There's you can set up a server, you can set up a video chat just to keep in contact with your friends, and it's really, really good. And that's what we've been using a considerable amount.
I was super interested in how you've moved your weekly Dungeons and Dragons game group online. I went home and told my boys that too, because they're D&D people too.
Yeah, no, we have. Christine and I are in the same Dungeons and Dragons group that we meet. We've been meeting a lot more since quarantine, uh,
Yeah.
which is actually one of the ways that we're meeting with our friends who are RAs in Vancouver. They seem to be really itching for social contact. It's a nice way to keep in touch with them. But yeah, no, it doesn't have to be D&D. Also, like there are apps online. Like there's a game on Steam called Tabletop Simulator where you can just play Monopoly with your friends on the internet, with, like through a voice chat or just anything really. Jackbox Party Pack lets you play things like it's all these online games you can play like across long distances with people.
Cool.
And it's nice because it gets you to stop talking about coronavirus.
Yeah.
You're not stressing about it. It's like one of the few things that's like just these moments of joy where we can just like play Dungeons and Dragons and just forget about everything else.
Yeah, if I have to hear one more person talk about either coronavirus or whether or not Carol Baskins killed her husband, I will go insane.
Well, I think you're gonna hear it again.
I bet I will. I bet I will.
I know that at our dinner table, I had one of my sons, if you even mention COVID or come close to it in any way, he kind of gets really angry and storms off. And granted, probably part of that is what you're explaining, and probably part of it is just feeling like he's not coping great or that it's triggering something. But I hear you on that.
Right? When it's all that anybody's talking about, it gets to be a lot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about upcoming LSATs and GMATs. That was something we talked about. And I think, Christine, you're preparing for the LSAT. And are both of you guys doing GMAT or not? I forget.
Alex is going to do the MCAT.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
MCAT, I
MCAT.
meant. Sorry, MCAT, right.
I'm scheduled to write the MCAT in August, but whether or not they're going to let that many people sit in the same room together in a convention center is interesting.
And there's no whispers of transferring it somehow online.
Oh, no chance. Actually, you know what? Don't
Never say never these days.
don't hold me to that. I haven't checked.
How about you,
I
Christine?
should.
Alt one to do online.
To my knowledge, they did cancel 1 or 2 sessions of the LSAT that are happening this summer. I was going to take mine in October, so hopefully that'll still happen.
Because it's a lot. I did the LSAT, and it takes a long time, just like the MCATs, to prepare. So that's a big investment for someone to continue to make, not knowing, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it runs quite often. Like now the LSAT, you can write it at the college on a tablet.
Okay.
So it's not as big a deal as the MCAT, I think. Like I don't have to go out of town to do it or anything. And they run it, I think, like 7 or 8 times a year now. So I'm not super stressed about it, but.
Hi, we're back. We switched it up a little bit to keep it interesting. We're in different boxes except for Alex. Moving forward, summer jobs. Financial situation. Let's talk about that. Those are 2 topics that we can talk about.
I'm still waiting to hear if I have my job or not. I might. I work on a farm, and so there's hope for me, but we're still waiting to see if we're going to be able to open up what we do or not.
There was talk today on the radio when I drove this morning on AM 1150. Shout out to Phil Johnson. He was speaking to the Premier and all about the situation with the agricultural industry and what's going on in bylands right now with some of these seasonal workers, and they're all isolated. So you work on a farm. What kind of farm?
I work at the Okanagan Lavender and Herb Farm.
Oh my goodness.
It's more so
That's
a big
right in my neighborhood.
Yeah, right up there. So, it's, partially we've got the whole farm where we grow the herbs, but then we also have a store there. And so there's certain things that we're going to be able to do for sure, like our farming and our online store. but we're still waiting to see if we're going to be able to open up our shop and do all of our regular workshops and everything. And so,
Does that mean that your position is up in the air, or?
it is. I think that there are pretty good chances I'll be able to work, even if we don't really have much of our staff there this year. But my regular position is in our retail shop, and so we would be moving stuff around a little bit.
And that's, I know that that's a seasonal business for the most part, relies on tourism.
Yeah, it's a huge tourist destination in the summer, and so it's going to be a year of adjustment for us too, of course, as it is with every other business. But we're trying to stay positive about it. I've had a few meetings with my boss recently, and we're making some plans for different scenarios that are possible through all of this. So
Building that airplane while flying and trying to figure out how to keep your business going.
exactly. So yeah, we're making plans. We're gonna do everything that we can do while keeping everybody safe. So
How about Christine and Alex? Did you have jobs in place already, or what's that looking like?
I was planning on doing like administration work this summer, which is not going to happen with the way offices are running. But my family is up in Southeast Kelowna with a cherry orchard, and we usually rely on foreign workers every year to pick cherries, and it's looking like that's going to be harder this year. So I might be doing farm work.
Super interesting. That was, knowing that I was speaking to you all this afternoon, when I was listening to the radio in that discussion this morning, I was thinking that there's an opportunity right there for some of the university students that don't have work this summer. Different kind of work, maybe not, maybe it's a lot harder work, and maybe it's not paid as much as they want to be paid. For example, comparing, serving at a restaurant is more lucrative, but if restaurants aren't open, so you have an option, that's great. You're going to have 1 million people now beating on your door looking for work. You, Alex?
I usually, in the summers, I work at Cedar Creek Estate Winery. They are currently closed, as most service establishments are, and it's uncertain when they'll be open again, and so I may or may not be out of work this summer. Yeah, it's all up in the air. I'm not sure yet. I've heard
Cherries.
Cherries? Yeah, let's pick cherries.
You can guess all jobs, Christine.
So it sounds like you all have great personal situations where you're able to live at home, and your parents are able to help you out with that. Do you have any friends that this is going to be a much more serious problem for them if they don't have summer work?
Yeah, I've got a friend who she normally comes back to Kelowna for the summers, but she's staying in Victoria this summer. And so if she's not able to work, then her rent is going to end up being an issue. So it's scary stuff. I think that everybody's really hoping that they'll get jobs this summer, but it's not going to be the case for everyone.
Yeah, I think the federal government is working on a plan for students, like
talk about it,
yeah, some kind of stimulus package for students. I'm not sure what it is yet, and I know a lot of students don't qualify for the one
that's out there right now. Yeah,
that's out there right now, and so yeah.
So will that be a problem, do you think, for a lot of students come September to be able to afford to go back to school?
Well,
I think so.
Is tuition for students who work through the summer so that they can pay to go to school. I'm not sure if they're going to do anything about tuition. I think that they probably haven't thought that far ahead yet because there's summer courses to deal with and finals to deal with and a lot else coming, but I think it'll definitely pose to be an issue for some students.
I think we'll definitely see some people taking the fall semester off, particularly if we're not back into in-person lectures.
Yeah.
I think we'll see some people like saving that expense for the foreseeable future.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So it's not a matter of affordability so much as that the quality of education would prompt you to wait.
Well, yeah, a little bit of both for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've considered whether I would want to continue paying for online classes or take a semester off and see what happens after that. But
Mm-hmm. So last time we spoke in prep for this meeting, you were talking about something very different. Maybe considering if you don't have a summer job, it might be a good time to do more classes this summer, right? To get ahead, you might as well be doing something. But now that you've had more time to experience what the online learning experience is like, is that changing your mind, or is that still a plan?
It would depend on the class, I think.
yeah, it would be nice to have something to do for sure. But it's frustrating trying to learn online. And it's hard to stay motivated and to, especially now going into finals, and it's just going to be one thing after another, and it's just not fun. It's not, you don't feel like you're learning effectively.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're getting what you want to out of it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Being in my third year of sciences, a lot of my courses aren't even offered because they all have lab components. And so I don't think that online courses are really an option for me anyways at this point. So I've done all my electives, I've done all my earlier classes that don't have labs. And so, yeah, the online is just not ideal. You don't get everything you kind of need to be getting out of the class.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you guys were asked how you think this might impact university experience and university education post-COVID, what would you say or guess?
I think there will be a new appreciation for in-class lectures. And I also think that it's going to affect accessibility a lot. Right now, for most of my classes, I can access online lectures whenever I need. And I find it's really convenient and would probably be beneficial to a lot of students who have a harder time learning in person. So I do think that there will be some positive effects with regards to accessibility and having lecture materials available outside of class time.
Yeah, I think we'll see more and better infrastructure in place for online learning. Just having done this experiment, I think having access to lectures outside of class is effective. It's one of the few positives that has come out of the transition to online courses, and it's quite a big help.
Yeah, I kind of asked that question to prompt a few topic areas, and one of them would be that it could be looked at as once the kinks are worked out and there's better delivery on the online courses as we go forward here, that maybe it's an opportunity for a lot of students who either have transportation issues or they want to study at a school that's not in their hometown where they have to pay rent, and it might be a lot more affordable for some people.
Yeah,
I agree.
Talking about how this has shown that you can do coursework like this online. I think although we haven't necessarily been having the best experience with it, it has been working for some people, and it shows that it is possible under certain circumstances with certain class types to provide education like this, like you said, for people who it may be a lot more convenient for. So I think that there will be a bit more of that in the future after all this.
And do you think that getting used to, like you said, Christine, it's kind of, and I think Alex said it too, that it's nice to be able to watch that lecture again or access it when it makes sense for you. That way you don't miss the lecture. Let's say you're having a bad day or you're sick or you're away, you can access that lecture. And is that something students are going to want even if they return to class in the future, will they want that as well? And will that be something they'll expect the university to deliver?
I think so. I think it's not about replacing the in-class component, but about supplementing it and making it accessible, because it's not 1920 where you put on your tweed suit and go and sit in class with your hands folded on the desk. It's you should be able to access those resources all the time, and accessibility should be a concern of the universities, and I hope that this will facilitate that accessibility.
I think it is something that students already wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully now that professors have learned how to do it, it will be something that continues after all this when classes go back to normal.
So what about student life? How would it impact student life in the future if less kids were on campus or less kids were in classes?
Well, that's the other thing, is if less people are on campus, it gets more difficult to reach the amount of people that you would for different clubs and associations and things that promote themselves on campus. So
Yeah.
An adjustment for those kind of groups who would have to figure out how to reach students who aren't making it all the way to campus.
Is
On
any
the
of
other
that happening yet, or any of the clubs or groups going online?
Nothing I'm involved with. Debate, we actually have to cancel our big debate for the end of the year. But and with the PPE course union and all that sort of stuff, we're just planning on moving forward. And when we come back, we want to be able to leave this behind us and have a bit of a fresh start. So that's how we're moving forward.
So we have to end this in the next couple minutes. I thought that maybe you guys could share some words of encouragement or hope or suggestions on to other students that are going to be watching, how to get through this and how to stay as hopeful as possible. I'll ask you each to go separately. Who wants to go first?
Oh, that's kind of tricky. I would just say don't expect too much from yourself. Do everything you can. Everybody's really understanding that these are extremely difficult times and that things aren't going to go smoothly for everybody. So I think that, expectations are lowered and everybody just needs to do what they can.
Be kind to themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Take care.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is flying by the seat of their pants. No one knows how to deal with this. Like, this isn't something that this isn't something that's common. This isn't something that's even really happened before. And everybody does not know something you don't. Like, everyone's struggling. No one knows what the future holds or what the implications are or how to go about doing online school. Like, I had a conversation with one of my professors who said that educators, even like high-end university administrators, are confused and scared, and they don't know how to deal with this either, and they're just trying their best. That's all you need to do. Just try your best, and like Katie said, don't push yourself too hard. Don't think that you need to, work your butt off just because the situation is challenging. Just do what you can, and also know that, like, in situations like this, people tend to come together more than normal. So people are understanding and people are kind, and
That's
don't
pretty
sweat
cool.
too much. Just stay safe.
Christine?
I would say to not put too much pressure on yourself to get everything in order. It's okay if you haven't Marie Kondoed your closet and kitchen and
Thank you.
everything. If you spend an entire day watching Netflix, that's so okay, because sometimes that's what you need to do, and it's what's going to happen. And don't be too hard on yourself.
It's what's going to happen for sure. Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen, and it's okay when it does. And just stay in touch with your friends, stay in touch with your coworkers, and just put effort into reaching out right now.
When you're 10 years from now and you're looking back on this, what kind of wisdom do you think you guys are learning right now? I mean, like Alex said, this is unprecedented. We've never been touched by a big war in Canada. But I've heard, grandparents talk about their takeaways and how it changed them forever. Do you think this is going to be one of those big changing moments in your life and you're learning some important stuff out of it?
I think this is the first time our generation has been faced with a super real, tangible threat of like financial struggle. So I think that's affecting us a lot. And also, I was talking to my coworkers the other day about like whenever you go into a job interview and they ask you like, what's one time you faced adversity or something like that, and this like that's what this feels like. This feels like something that we'll be able to use as an example of how we got through this troubled time.
Any takeaways, Katie or Alex? Do you feel like you're growing up over this? Because that's how I always reflect back on big moments in my life. I'm like, wow, I grew up from that.
I feel like it's taught me that I can slow down and not have to do 1,000 things every day.
Yeah.
That.
Which I do like doing, but it also is really good for me to take a break. And I think that this kind of forced me into a break and taught me to take it a little bit more easy while still doing my best to be productive.
So you recognize that you were never stopping. You were just going and going. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that more than anything, with everything between the transition to like the rapid transition to online class that our university did, from that to like the speed with which a lot of countries handled the crisis, like South Korea or China or Japan. I think it's going to show that like when people want to, they can do incredible and monumental things if they have reason to. I think more than anything, I've just been impressed by how fast everything slowed down, like how quickly things decelerated, and that one day I was going to school and the next international travel had been completely suspended.
So that you're saying two opposites at the same time. On one hand, the world slowed down, on the other hand, everything, how we do life, has changed really quickly with being at home, online schooling, for example.
Yeah, no, like the world turned on a dime, which I thought was really, really impressive.
So that gave you hope that we can do things better and react quickly when we need to. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. With just the amount of competency that a lot of just countries and organizations and institutions, from like Canada as a state to the University of British Columbia as an institution of education, how quickly they reacted, I thought was inspiring. Yeah, and just like and like Katie said, that it's okay to slow down. That there's a big trend to associate personal worth with productivity.
Yep.
And while it's good to work hard, I think it's important to realize like it's not everything.
Yeah. It puts things in perspective.
In perspective, yeah. Makes you realize what's important pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your time with me today. Alex, Katie, and Christine, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be posting this video online as soon as possible. Stay connected to Third Space Charity on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our website at thirdspacecanada.org for upcoming shows, and to share this video with everybody you know, the students in your lives. Have a great day, guys. Bye for now.